I know that you've all been prepared for this, but I thought I'd just remind you just the same.
Can you handle that, Blondie?
Game over, man. Game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
It was pure evil.
I want to buy some radio ad time.
And we're back for another episode of Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host, Noel John Toohey. Let's get to it, motherfuckers. Alright, Noel. Right, we just recently visited Fear Street, and now we're gone back to the past because we got inspired. They're like, we want to do time jumps. We do time jumps. And so we landed in Burkittsville.
Back to the fuck you.
Yeah, back to 1995, I think it was when this was released, was it?
99, man.
99? Oh, wasn't it?
August 1st, 99.
1999. You just looked at the cheat sheet, didn't you? It's like,
no, it was 99. We were only talking about it being the 22nd anniversary. You gigantic dickhead. It's like it's 22nd anniversry, like 3 days. You looked at the cheat sheet. You have to look at the fucking cheat sheet.
Me no math's good.
Me no, yeah, he doesn't math's good. No, he's right
math's
there.
Good.
But we both word.
Yeah, we word pretty well.
Yeah.
But we don't math's good. I don't math's good. He math's good.
What have we got here, Vinny? What's on our plate?
Alright, so now we got the Blair Witch Project, right? It's a 22-year anniversary you just alluded to a second ago. And we thought we'd look over this motherfucking movie that it seems to weaken in a lot of senses in the general point, like in the perspective of the general public.
I have a small pushback on that point, but I agree.
No, I just mean the quality of the movie itself.
Yes.
The perspective from the general public is that it's not as good as the way we used to perceive it when we were growing up, but it is undeniable the impact it had.
Oh, impact is a word that's going to be used quite a few times.
You know, in terms of the marketing, in terms of reviving the subgenre of the found footage film, and
starting really more than reviving, man.
Yeah, well, not really. Cannibal Holocaust, and
no, of course they exist. I do feel that everything that we've seen going in the modern framing of, like, you know, they had the documentary crew who go into somewhere and stuff. That was done before, absolutely. Yeah. But I do feel like there are no actors. Modern framing of it has been. This is what I'm saying. A lot of it hasn't aged well. I said this to you before we started. Is that like, oh, that's quite tropey. That's quite tropey. That's quite tropey. And then I remember thinking to myself, why do I think that's quite tropey? I was like, yeah, because they've been doing it since the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, because of the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah. Like you think of something like Cannibal Holocaust, they end up running into a tribe that ends up completely decimating them. But this one was supernatural. This was a little bit, I think, different, a little bit more copied.
American folklore.
Granted, actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was really. It was like American folklore, because America is got.
Don't pronounce a K. It is folklore.
Folklore. Folklore. Yeah.
That's the word.
I just think of all, like America is not a very old society, but like one thing it's steeped in massively.
But it's also because it's a melting pot. It's also it's neither old, and it's also everything from Hungarian.
I just think
to Spanish to Irish to African.
No, I just mean
folklore.
that like one thing it's steeped in massively is that it's steeped in the fact that witches. Like you look at
massively, it's the country you think of, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like
we always say banshees, Ireland.
Exactly.
Like Eastern Europe would be vampires, even though again Ireland, by the way.
Well,
Bram Stoker.
Yeah, he wrote the story, but he didn't create Vlad.
Yeah, shut up, Bram Stoker.
He was a real person, like
Bram Stoker.
Vlad Dragul, you know, the dragon.
Oh, yeah.
He was a real human.
Bram Stoker.
Anyway, he fictionalized.
No, but you're right. It is because of course we grew up hearing about and watching films about. Like Salem's Lot was a film I grew up with.
Yeah, that was based on the Stephen King book, was it?
Yeah. So you're right. Witches are completely kind of
ingrained into American society, especially the northeastern part, you know.
And we were talking, I'm going to jump straight to this. I don't know if this is like too quick to jump to, but it's early in the film. We were talking about how awesome this was when they were doing the interviews with the locals.
Yeah, that was one of the best
girl
parts.
That has, this woman, that has a little girl. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze.
That was such a pussy sneeze.
Was it? I thought it was quite good.
No. A sneeze should be like...
But she was telling the story, and the little girl, because of course you can't get a girl, like, I mean, this girl is 26 months old or something.
Strangely enough, that girl ended up turning out to being Zendaya.
Yeah, no, it's about wait for half a second. But anyway, she's kind of hitting your one on her mouth and going, no, 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 and she was like hitting her ears and stuff, and she just didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And you can't fake that. So even if I don't know, and I have to say, we were talking about this earlier, were they? I don't know or care if they were people from the neighborhood or if they were real. It doesn't matter because the effect was the same.
It seems so real anyway.
Yeah.
It's like what we said in Sunshine. If it looks real, it is real.
Yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And so they were talking to locals out fishing. They were talking to and I remember, like, one guy talking about a serial killer that happened maybe 30, 40 years before. Yeah. And that he would have a kid in the corner wait to be murdered. Yeah. And he'd butcher a kid because he didn't like having the eyes on him. And it was all just very, but this is the kind of stuff, if you like, we're both like Midland Irish lads, so we grew up with an awful lot of folklore. Yeah. An awful lot. You remember the Devil's Chair in Strawberry? I remember like hearing about it and being afraid to go out there because I'd have to sit
and the Downs in Portlaoise.
And the Downs in Portlaoise, and all these places. And it had attached a folklore to it.
It's all bullshit.
And it could have been 10 years old or 1,000 years old. I don't know. I don't care. It freaked me out. I was a kid. But when they touched on this, I thought, like, looking back, it's almost the best part of the film.
Yeah, it is in a lot of ways.
In a lot of ways, it was just like, it just felt like real first-person accounts of just people telling, like, one guy telling the story about, I know the story because my grandmother used to tell me, and it used to be how they got the kids to bed. Yeah, because the boogeyman aspect. The boogeyman was called the Blair Witch.
Baba Yaga.
Yeah, Baba Yaga, whatever you want to call it. And then it was, of course, a description, and she would be like, a distorted but humanoid face, fur. Yeah. On the arms, quite tall horsehair, and would have like a shawl, whether that be a part of the body or something that was being worn, but all very freaky.
To me, it gave me a feel that back in the day there was this witch, the Witch of Blair, and she possessed or influenced different people. It's quite similar to Fear Street, something we just recently covered. That, like, I think she was possessing these people or influenced these people. This guy that came down from...
100%, because he killed people in the same fashion.
He killed like seven children, I think it was.
Without any... Well, at least they never touched upon it. It wasn't like an Edward Gein where we learned so much afterwards about the psychology. It was just very much the story was, this guy did this. Yeah. How does Ed Gein only have one movie and it's terrible? Yeah, that's a good point. Although, like, we wouldn't have Silence of the Lambs. We wouldn't have an awful lot of shit that you don't know was related to Ed Gein. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know, but it was this basis. But that movie occurred after Silence of the Lambs and stuff. Absolutely. Such a weak movie for such a strong source material. Thing is, Ed Gein, again, if we're going to get caught in this for a second, Ed Gein wasn't actually an evil character. Ed Gein was one of the few people who, like, I mean, if you look at the insanity defense, all right, fine, we're doing this. If you look at the insanity defense as it's used, the fact of the matter is you need to be able to, like, Bundy and guys like that went for it at certain points. Yeah. And you need to be able to know that you didn't know the difference between right and wrong. And Ed Gein actually didn't. Yeah. Like, he used to hang shrunken skulls in his window. And people would compliment him on him. Oh, yeah, no, still a monster. But so genuinely disturbed that he didn't have the smarminess of a Bundy. He didn't do the, like, broken arm, can you help get my kayak on the top of I have a rest for it on top of my car, but I can't get it up. He had none of that. He had none of that charm. He didn't really get that what he was doing was wrong on the scale that me and you would get. But they didn't. But and again, I think that's why it's up. But this film, they never. Everything that happened was just folklore. So it either happened or it didn't happen. Because again, this was. Me and you are old enough, especially me, unfortunately, are old enough to remember. I remember that this was the first kind of internet pushed film that I knew of. I'm sure it wasn't the first. It was the first time, because I didn't have the internet in 1999. It was probably one of the first films that had a more impressive marketing campaign than it did story. Yes, because I had a friend, again, Mel, I think he was the only one who had the internet back then, and he would come and say, apparently this is like grand, because it wasn't like you had an IMDb, a Facebook, and a Twitter, and an Instagram that would tell you, what, you think that's found footage? Right, you fucking idiot. Yeah. We were just a bunch of kids in our teens, mid-teens, and we were just like, it's what? That's crazy. Wait, they can't show like violence on the thing. You can't show us nothing. But you don't see any of the violence. So they can, so that's a loophole. And I believe that. I think I found out just before I went into it that it was, in fact, just a film with actors, and it was all just a normal horror film. But in the frame of something I hadn't seen before, because I hadn't seen Cannibal Holocaust at this point. Like, it's a movie that we do up cheat sheets, a little bit of research, before we do every episode.
But like it was made for somewhere between $200,000 and $500,000. Made over 240 something million. In
Avengers can't touch those numbers.
You know what I mean? Nothing can. Like,
nothing can. Nothing ever will. This is why like paranormal activity wouldn't have existed. An awful lot of films. I'm not even going to go into my. I don't know.
Yeah, because you can't just say that one exists because of that and that and that.
But people at the time, you needed like. You had to have a story, had to have actors, and they showed you a film. This was trying to like negate the actor side, even though it didn't. But it was trying to, in their approach, negate the actor side, because a lot of their interactions was the very normal. Like, have you ever been out in the fucking wild and you got a little bit lost and you start getting a bit pissy? Because I have. Yeah. It had this very normal human reaction.
Yeah, I've been up to Windy Gap. That's a scary place.
That's a scary place.
Yeah. Creepy motherfucking place. Like I understand the jitteriness of being out in the wild and the fact that like you're open but yet you're closed.
You said 20 minutes ago that we were back to the car and we're lost. I've had that. So I've had like the Blair Witch on such a tiny little bitch scale. Yeah. But I remember the nerves. Yeah. I remember the nerves of just not knowing north from south, east from west, where I am or where my next meal is coming from. Yeah. And it's scary.
Yeah. And what did you think of the build up from the way, like, pretty much we seen three people that like they kind of knew each other.
Josh, Mike, and Heather.
Yeah, Josh, Mike, and Heather. I think Josh and Heather knew each other, but Mike kind of knew them.
Mike was there Mike was there in a very technical capacity. Yeah. Mike was like the gear guy. He was the guy who brought the batteries, the camera. He had to get all that shit back. He had a job to get back to.
What was the dat? What's a dat? They keep saying dat the whole way through.
I do not.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is the dat?
Here's the thing. One of the strangest moments of the film, I have to say. When Mike kind of admits that he kicked the map away. Yeah. If it was me and I did that shit, I eventually got to a point where I'm like, I'm taking that shit to my grave. Yeah. Which is fairly soon. But like fucking no, I'm not saying shit about the map. Not now. Do you have the map? I just feel better if you have the. But do you have the map? And like Heather. Fuck off. Yeah. At one point he says pretty much no. At one point he walks away from her and he flips her the bird. Yeah. He just says, fuck off. As in, he's not even having this conversation. That was Josh. Not even having this conversation anymore.
What did you think of? Do you think they built it up nicely, like in terms of the interviews at the start and the lead into the part where they go into the woods of Burkittsville? And do you think they built up the eeriness of the whole thing nicely?
Yeah. I also thought, like, at the same time, because if it's going to be found footage, it can't be as smooth storytelling as a Scream or even a Nightmare on Elm Street or a Friday the 13th or anything, because it's not. At times you felt like I remember the first time Mike starts getting pissy with Heather. Yeah, he was like, "You said no. Let me tell you what you said. You said if we keep walking this way for 2 fucking hours, that we'd get to such and such a point, and we're not fucking there, Heather." And I felt like it just jutted.
Coffin Rock.
Yeah. But that's the way it would be, wouldn't it? Because you don't like, especially you'd only be recording certain aspects, and you wouldn't know whether that would be in the form of story. You don't know whether that would be the best time to cut it or not, because it wasn't supposed to be a story.
Yeah, and in the end of the day as well, like, this is found footage, so maybe some of the footage is destroyed.
Exactly. And but it had that feeling where like I felt like their moods shifted like at one point extremely quickly. Yeah. Because like they'd gone from staying in a motel like really before it, and they're all like they're all just drinking from the same nagging of whiskey, and they're kind of like, let's not drink too much, we got a big day ahead of us tomorrow. And they're joking, and they're a bunch of like 20-something-year-olds, and they're on their first big break. And I remember looking back at it all these years later, and when she was just like, "We are here at the," and I thought, like, cool TV voice, you know what I mean? And they were doing, and it felt to me all these years parody. Yeah, it felt parody to me, even though at the time I wouldn't have thought so. But again, I've seen found footage so many times that it just feels. But like I said, so many times I felt like trope, and then I went, wait, that wasn't trope in 1999. Yeah. Not in 1999. It wasn't trope.
They get resurged and dead fucking.
Resurged and changed.
Yeah, modernized.
Because again, like Cannibal Holocaust didn't have that. Yeah, I met the director Ruggiero Deodato. I met him face to face, an absolutely lovely man, and I do actually give him credit for like really creating something really special. And I do get like almost like Wes Craven did with Scream. Wes Craven did not by any stretch of the imagination make the first slasher at all. Yeah,
He just
but he took it and he modernized it.
Yeah.
And this was modernized because back then, and we didn't have phones, let alone camera phones.
Yeah.
But we did have, like, I have moments of my life recorded from way before 1999. We did have cameras. Sometimes we just took them out and we recorded very innocuous moments of our lives.
Yeah.
And a lot of this felt like there were innocuous moments of their life, but then really crazy shit was happening around it.
Yeah.
Something as small as 3 little piles of rocks outside of their campsite, and then Heather being accused of having built them to kind of like push the story of what she was going for.
Yeah.
So it did have that, like, it was a great film for manic distrust of the people around you.
Yeah.
As in, like, fuck, I'm not out here with 3 people. I'm out here alone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think it's because that's such a distrust of their environment that it manifested itself in distrust of one another.
But exactly. But like, don't get me wrong. Like, me and you, neither of us are religious people. Far from it. And also, so if I went somewhere like this with you and we camped and I woke up the next morning and there was something that inside of the laws of physics could not be explained, I would. And let's just say, just for the sake of the argument I'm trying to make, if it was just me and you, and I know I didn't do it, and I know I didn't do it, you did.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation.
It's like that whole thing, like, do you remember in the elevator, Peter Griffin, when he farts?
You did it.
It was you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like, it's like, what did you think of the way they built up the look? Like, when I watched this movie back, like, you're unsettled from the first interview. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's the one thing it does. It's a very minimalistic movie. And, like, you know, it's shown in the budget, even though the budget looks massive to me or you. But in terms of filmmaking, it's quite a small budget, $200,000 to $500,000 or whatever. And
no, man, it was a drop in the water.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the thing. When you decide you're going to make a film, everyone talks about like a film costing $100 million or $1 million. But let me tell you about that first $1 million. That's just getting the people to show up.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's like Hellraiser. I think the first Hellraiser was meant for like less than $2 million, like $1 point maybe something $1 million, and that's just like, you need such a quality camera. You need a director on site. You need a crew on site.
Permits.
Exact permits and stuff like that. That first $1 million disappears. Like, when you talk with something like an Avengers of $200 million, I guarantee that first $2 million, nobody knows where it went.
Yeah.
That was getting like filters for the camera. That was getting lights.
Printing out the paper for the contract.
That was hiring the lorries that you needed, or the trailers that you needed.
Yeah.
That disappears. So that first $1 million is nothing.
Yeah.
It's literally just getting you off the ground.
Feature,
This is meant for hundreds of thousands. And again, even in 99, it's just silly. It's absolutely no money whatsoever. Even for what we saw, it's still no money whatsoever. Because obviously the actors themselves weren't getting paid. Because, you know, like, whatever, you watch it again in Avengers, I'm talking about multi-million-dollar, nobody signed on for less than $10 million or so.
Yeah.
So that's whatever, that's $70 million before you get before you get
to your Robert Downey Jr.
Before you get to your Robert Downey Jr. It was another $70 million.
Yeah.
But that first $1 million is nothing. And they did it for a fraction of that. And you have to tip your cap.
Yeah, that's one thing I loved about this movie. Like, it was so minimalistic, but it used everything to maximum effect. Like, where you have like the interviews at the start, that the way they kind of build through, like, they reveal a little bit more and more of the lore of the myth of the Blair Witch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, through each little interview, you get more and more unsettled, and it's like the closer they get to the woods, the more there gets revealed about the Blair Witch itself.
We were talking about this because we were like, when me and you tried to write a bit as well, and we were kind of going, what we loved about this was that when you
#Riverbones.
But when you get into what you have to realize on second viewing, especially, well, for me, I'd seen bits and pieces of Blair Witch many times in different, like, various formats, but I realized I hadn't sat down and watched the movie.
Yeah.
Like, start to finish as one movie since I went to in the cinema 22 years ago. But you have to realize that they were in the witch's power, the witch's spell, the witch's magic, the juxtaposition of like, they were blaming Heather, but the second they went deep enough into that forest, they were inside of the Blair Witch's belly, in a way.
By the time they knew they'd gone too far, it was already too late.
Way too late.
Yeah.
And it was way late in the film where Mike literally realizes that, because there's a part where he crosses the stream and Mike, I think he falls
Yeah.
And you don't see him fall because the camera cuts in. And again, this is done well because the camera, like ideally, if you went on a holiday and you said, "Oh, I'm going to capture loads of this for my friends back home," you wouldn't capture every minute because weird and because it's life and because the silly stuff.
Battery life as well.
Well, battery life, yeah. Well, actually, I remember they made a joke. I was watching this.
To have enough battery or whatever.
Something about power in a small country.
That's clever writing. I even said that to
exactly to set it up. But at the same time, they were like, Mike was like, "Oh, I'm not falling on my arse," and that. And so. But I realized later, you realize when they come across this particular stretch of lake again, that's like why it's stuck in his head so much. Like he tried to walk across this fallen tree, kind of like the stalk of the tree, and he fell on his arse, and that's why he remembers it. As in, it wasn't just like a particular shaped rock. He goes, no, right here. Yeah. We were here 2 days ago.
Yeah.
We were fucking not just.
What do you make of them walking in circles constantly instead of following the river?
And they start. Yeah. Well, actually, the thing is, I like the thing is you got. Well, all I know is like again, they always say like follow a river. That's kind of like a survival tool. But when you have a map and you know which way is due north, and if you keep walking that way, you're supposed to get. Yeah. Like eventually, you're supposed to get to wherever north leads.
And they have a compass.
You're supposed to get to wherever east leads, wherever west leads. Yeah. That's just the way it is. So if you've done something wrong,
the way it is.
Things will never be the same. Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, you had me break out my amazing vocals. But it was. They were blaming Heather. Heather drove me fucking mad. By the way.
Yeah.
Heather, like, oh my god, you said it.
I would probably kill her about day 2.
Day 2, I probably would have killed her.
I would have been like, are we even lost? I'm going to kill her.
Would have been like that whole, like, I'm so sorry scene. And just a bag over the head.
I wouldn't have been apologising. I'd be like, you deserve this.
Yeah, no jury would have convicted you.
Yeah.
Heather was driving me crazy.
Yeah, like, the footage is there. And they like look at it and be like, that bitch never shut up once with that map.
Yeah.
She never shut up once.
Yeah. Judge, I've been doing this for 30 years, but like that bitch never shut up.
Yeah, like not even once.
Yeah. And I would like to condemn her family for allowing her to get to this stage in her life without killing her.
Yeah. And weren't they like so poorly equipped to go into the woods as well?
But like the thing is, it was supposed to be a smash and grab. In fact, like half the story was supposed to be when they got the lore, and then they were just supposed to go like, here's where. It's all. But they had like 2 points. I think it was only 2 points.
Get the Coffin Rock and get your story and get the fuck out of Dodge.
Yes, but they didn't realize that no matter what they did, they were already outside of what we would understand, or they would understand, or anyone would understand as space and time.
Yeah. Space time, as Sam Neill likes to say.
But they were inside a loop of some description.
Like a fairy ring in Irish lore.
Exactly. In Irish lore, it's a fairy ring.
Yeah.
And they were inside of one. And again, they were shitting on Heather, getting really frustrated, which again, if you were in their scenario, you would too. You're our navigator.
Yeah.
Because Mike, at one stage, Mike's given like
she's the reason they're there anyway.
Yeah, Mike's given shit and he takes the map and he goes, I'm gonna be honest, this is Greek to me, I think is the way he worded it.
Yeah.
He goes, so I'm trusting you.
Yeah.
So he gives it back, and to be fair, for a time he like shuts the fuck up because he knows that I don't know what's going on, but I know that with the map doesn't make things any better. This is, but like at the end of day 2, when she said, I think we should make camp. We're not going to make it back to we'll make it back to the car real quick. It's just going to get dark real quick, and you're thinking, no, this is where they start to fray.
Yeah.
This is where they start to actually lose their shit. And understandably so.
Yeah, I just think Heather's a bit of a control freak, and she tried to maintain control.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And she just had no control. Like as soon as they,
you can see when Mike sees the same stretch of whatever land of lake or whatever, and she goes, Mike, no, it's not the same. And she goes, it's not the same. And then the third time she cries, it's not the same. But then she kind of goes, she walks by and she pans the camera onto the literal piece of wood that they'd used across the lake. And she goes, oh God, it's the same. Yeah. It's the same. As in, she's been lying to herself. But like, I've often like through like music experience or just personal experience, sometimes I used to be in a band that I always like kind of give out about the ringleader and the main songwriter of the band. But the fact of the matter, I always had to give him the credit is that if it wasn't for him kicking us up the arse, that we wouldn't actually be getting anything done. Yeah. So while there was like we made Hitler jokes, as in like absolute control for absolute fucking maniac,
and he had a pension for genocide,
and a pension for genocide. Yeah. But he at the same time without him.
Yeah.
So maybe you needed a header. And in a normal circumstance, you would. Because in a normal circumstance, if you headed due north, you'd end up wherever due north is.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case.
Do you think they were trapped as soon as they went in there? Or is it
I think there was a certain point, because I noticed that everyone conveniently said that they interviewed in the town that, like, oh yeah, like, I mean, I don't go up there.
Yeah.
I don't go up there.
Yeah.
And it was even like, they talked to someone who's a hunter, and he was like, oh, I don't go that deep. Then they talked to like I don't know if it's supposed to be a father and son fishing, but like a much older man.
Two friends, I think.
Yeah, whatever. It was a much older man and a younger man.
Two lovers, maybe.
Two lovers, maybe. You know what? Two lovers.
That's
what I think they were, and that's fine.
Hashtag progressivism.
Hashtag progressive. But at the same time, I think they just got to a point where that's just not where people go. And it was always this thing where you kind of like, do you ever be? I'm kind of one of these people where you ever think, I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe in any blah this or that and the other. But
do you not believe in ghost stories, no, John?
No.
Well, you should, because you're in one.
But you know, like, there's certain things I wouldn't do at a church.
Yeah.
You know that kind of way?
Jerk off or something.
Don't want to go there.
Well, because the priests do a lot of that.
Yeah. I did vomit on the church once, but I sculled a bottle of vodka, trying to impress people. And I got it down with me, and then I just started, like, literally
Did a priest bring you off to one side and said, drink this vodka and you'll impress me?
Yeah. It was vodka.
Yeah.
It was
vodka.
It was vodka.
It was vodka. Did he make you drink his holy water? Yeah. But what's called like so. Noel, before we go to the break, because we're getting up to that about that time, do you want to say anything else? Because pretty much we talked a bit about the story of Blair Witch, and we'll kind of get back into that a bit more in the second half of the show. But like the main strength of this movie was the marketing campaign. The fact that they made everyone believe that Heather, Josh, and Mike were really dead, and
Heather, Josh, and Mike played Heather, Josh, and Mike.
Yeah, and it was like 7 months or something, I think, to stay out of the public eye until the movie released, and then they got awards, and then they showed up at the award ceremony or something. But like, what did you make of? Like, do you think we'll ever get a movie? Like, because of the age of the internet, I don't think it's not redoable.
No. That's what I mean. Like, it's like, don't get me wrong. We live in an age of information, the likes of which we've never seen. We are Earth is flat and space isn't real. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like, information works both ways.
Yeah, I know. I found a lot of truth in that.
And disinformation.
The Earth is definitely flat.
Well, the Earth is flat. Like,
100%.
I'm giving up about people believing that Australia is real.
Globalists. Yeah, no, I mean, hashtag flat
Australia
Earth
is real, and even though my brother lives in Australia, my brother's a crisis actor.
Yeah. Well, he's obviously just on the left of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
He's on the left.
You
know what I mean?
But I don't think, to go back to it, no, I just don't think they can, because, you have to understand, I was getting this information from my friend who had the internet.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist now.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a 10-year-old daughter who has the internet.
Yeah.
And as an individual.
Yeah.
So even when
telling all the perverts that got a 10-year-old daughter has the internet, no, geez.
Yeah.
She's 9, by the way.
Who's known as no. But like, I know, but I'm just saying, it was like, even when one of my mates did, like, he had it in his house.
Yeah.
As in, he had access. I don't Google it.
Yeah, third-party information.
Third-party information. And that was the best information at 15
that
I was getting. So I believed it. And that was fine. But it now, no.
Yeah, it's like no matter how real they make something look, we're never going to believe it.
Well, even, it makes me think of, do you remember Simon Pegg?
Yeah.
Was doing Scotty on the
Star Trek.
And there was so much like hush-hushness about that he was on, I know, Kimmel Fallon, it doesn't matter, but one of those, and they were saying, can you give me some of your Scottish accent?
Yeah.
And he said, I can't even do that because I would get my face suit off.
Yeah.
And he joked about it, but he wouldn't do it. But like, again, it would only be asking a dude to do a Scottish accent, good or bad. Just do it for fun. And he wouldn't do a Scottish accent just generally, let alone his Scotty. Because that's how cloak and dagger you now need to be.
But the thing is, even with all these NDAs and all this cloak and dagger, like, everything gets out.
Oh, no, everything.
But back in the day, that wasn't the case.
They never been moved to studios, from studio to studio on the same block by like trucks, covered truck. Like, they were being like literally put on them and moved to another studio, and they were being like ushered off, and that's what it took. Now, back then, it did not take that.
Yeah.
It did, like you said, they went. AWOL, but it's not like their social media didn't go dark because they didn't have social media.
Exactly, yeah, that's the thing, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like everybody has a camera now because everybody has a phone.
Everybody has a camera.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just saying this to you, like, I mean, I you know, whatever the iPhone we're up to now, 25, X1, I don't care.
Yeah.
That has a better quality camera than what we were looking at.
iPhone Days of Future Past.
iPhone Days of Future Past, yeah. But like that film, it did break ground, and you can't, and you have to. I try to see. The thing is, it kind of didn't age well.
Yeah,
but you can't put that on the film.
Yeah,
that's what recording looked like. If you weren't James Cameron, or if you weren't,
it's not a problem that before we go to the break, but it's not a problem with a lot of modernistic found footage films. Is I've read this somewhere. Like, I'm not going to say it's my original thought, but like the quality of camera is so good now that it makes it look less real in a sense, because you have a high def camera all the time, so it looks like a futuristic or whatever. You know, it looks like it's a feature. It looks like it's.
I've also got used to it. I remember going to my
4K
sister's house.
now, even like.
Yeah, I remember going to my sister's house, and she was the first person I knew that had a 4K TV.
Yeah,
and we did throw in a game of football. I kind of joked. I said it looked like a window.
Yeah,
as in there was a game of football on. And I just remember, I think I could walk. I said I could walk up and slap the player in the back of the head.
Yeah, oh, don't we wish we could.
Yeah. But it looked that real to me. Yeah. Now my eyes I guess have become spoiled over a period of time.
Yeah.
But I remember just thinking that is like a window to me. It's actually bizarre.
Yeah.
But now, of course, you're spoiled and you're climatized. But yeah, so at the time it was bleeding edge, and now it's not, and you can't put that on a film.
Yeah,
especially not a film that was trying to show off its bleeding edge.
Like saying, "Oh, look, The Exorcist, that's old tropes." Well, that's because it created the tropes, dude.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, kind of.
That's it, Jay. You can't hold it to that. It's not fair to hold it to that.
It's like cutting edge for its time.
Exactly,
and that's all it can be.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, it'd be like saying, like, the Thing. Well, it takes a poor example because it looks so good still.
The Thing is so good,
so good. But no, right. So before we kind of finish off breaking down, because we kind of spoke a bit about the marketing and the way they built up the lore and the kind of general tone and atmosphere of the movie in the first half of the show. But before we break down the actual the gore and the meatiness and shit like that, what happens to Josh, Mike, and Heather? Do you want to go for a few minutes break and we get the fuck out here?
Yes.
All right, cool. So, all right, thanks for joining us. And this is the Invasion of Potty Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host,
Noel John Toohey.
And we'll be back after the break with more Blair Witch Project. And we'll see you soon. And we'll return to Burkittsville after you hear from our sponsors.
Always carry a box of Irish matches. You never know when you'll need them.
And we're back from the break. This is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host,
Noel John Toohey. Thanks for being with us.
And we last time you joined us, we were kind of getting stuck into the whole Blair Witch thing. We're getting deep into the woods of Burkittsville. We talked about the market employees, the productions and shit like this. And we talked about how they built up the lore and the myth of the Blair Witch before they actually took, their first steps actually into the woods of Burkittsville. And we talked about how they got lost and, the kind of natural human reaction to blaming Heather because she was technically the reason they were out there, but they were in above their heads before they even knew they were in above their heads.
They didn't realise the physics had gone out the window, and she was just a scapegoat for that, which she would be.
Yeah.
Because fuck you, dude. Like,
it's just your lightning rod, because it's like if me and you go out anywhere and we got lost really badly, if you brought me out there, I'm going to blame you immediately.
There's always a thing as well about the talent, as in the talent being the person in front of the camera.
Yeah.
It's like, this is you making your name. I'm a dude who's just trying to get a paycheck.
Yeah.
As in, I'm a dude who got a camera and blah, 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 X, Y, and Z together. And I'll be doing this for like 90 more people. This is where you make your name.
Yeah.
My name will be on the credits. But like, there was this fuck you, because she obviously became obsessed about. She did say, to be fair, that she was using it as a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
To just record.
Yeah.
And the guys were kind of going, well, no, fuck you. What this actually is your vanity project.
Yeah.
And your ego absolutely completely out of control. Again, lightning rod, I think, was a good way of putting it, to be fair. Like, yeah. Again, like, she turned out to be responsible. Like, I found her very annoying, but she also turned out to not be responsible for pretty much anything. Yeah. Once they get to the part where they knock the rocks, I think that's when they're fucked. Yes. It's kind of like in Bone Tomahawk. As soon as they fuck with that Indian burial ground, you're marked for death. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's that kind of thing, like, where they got it to a stage where maybe they might have made it back if they hadn't fucked with anything, but like, they knocked the rocks and then... Bone Tomahawk was kind of supernatural, but it didn't like... physics didn't existed. It didn't seem like it just. Again, this was supernatural in the super. Like there was huge amounts of magic or whatever. I'm just going to use the word magic because I don't have another word.
Wicked.
The occult and all that kind of jazz. But it was already in play.
Yeah.
Bone Tomahawk, they walked right into the belly of the beast. But it's still a good comparison.
Well, I just think, at the start, Sid Haig's character and David Arquette, when they fuck with the Indian burial ground, and the reason the troglodytes follow them into the town is because it desecrated their burial ground. They killed Sid Haig and then they followed David Arquette into the town. And I think that maybe if the fact that you trespass is bad enough, but the fact that you trespass and then you start like desecrating shit in the eyes of your killer or pursuer, I think that just amplifies the whole thing, because I think they might have been tolerated being there, because if you look at the MO of the person, the killer is usually children, so might have tolerated them being there. The fact that in the eyes of this fucking crazed witch or whatever, the madman serial killer, they desecrated. Like, she fucking took one of these. Imagine seeing all this shit hanging around the woods and she's like, I'll take one of them back with me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, shit like that. I just think, like, the fact that they desecrated the place in the eyes of whoever.
Well, it takes me back to an actual human moment I had in the 90s, and that was going through a graveyard and a girl that we were there with picking up a little bunny that was on a child's grave and thinking it was cute to walk off with it. And I remember, you're never proud of bullying her, but I screamed at that woman until she cried, because I never felt true and utter disgust. Yeah. Like utter disgust.
Yeah, it was a furry bad.
And I'm not even but I've been trying to be fine. But like, I remember feeling such absolute utter disgust that I lost myself. Yeah. And I'm not proud of that. And it was only words.
Yeah, I would have drop kicked that bitch. I would have drop kicked that bunny right over fucking hand. That's
but
what
at the same time, I just felt that, because that's just not something you should do.
Yeah.
I even like, you ever like, you go to Cemetery Sunday and you're trying to walk along the brim of some graves, and you realize people are standing on the stones. And I'm not a religious person at all, and now I have this like kind of like don't
that's ingrained in me too. You don't walk across some graves
because it's you someday.
Yeah,
and I don't know if I want some do.
Well, I'll be shot into space. No, big Bezos style, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like,
maybe taxpayers won't have to pay for it.
Political hour.
We need like a soundboard. It goes political.
Invasion of the political snatchers.
Yeah, I love that. But to be back on topic, you have to decide. Like, at the same time, it kind of falls. Like, obviously, this is that on a nuclear scale, where sometimes you talk about like desecrating in the burial ground, and you kind of thinking it's the way I feel about fucking the way they dug up shit in Egypt. They're kind of like, no.
Like, do you think, like, as soon as they go deep enough into the woods of Burkittsville, that they're lost forever, no matter what they do? Or do you think as soon as they desecrate the stones, that they're put under some sort of spell by the witch itself?
No, I think it was a geographical thing. I think her influence, like, let's just say, spread 500 meters, 1,000 meters.
Do you not think it could be a case of she puts them under some sort of enchantment that they just keep walking in circles?
Well, I guess, actually, to be honest with you, if you want to put me on the spot, I think that's probably a conversation you could just have over and over, because it was all it was a results game. Yeah. All I know is they kept walking one direction to get back to, the opposite direction of where they had gone.
But do you think maybe she put them under some sort of spell that made them just keep walking in
possibly
circles? You know what I mean?
Because especially when Josh goes missing, you don't know why he went missing. Josh disappeared in the night.
She could have just like came in and enchanted him.
I don't know, and I love that we don't know.
Yeah,
and I love that to this day it's never been explained.
Yeah. But as you said earlier, as soon as Josh started screaming, I'm like, I'm out here.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Josh. Yeah, no, dude. Help me. Oh, man. Oh, that sounds rough.
Josh, I'm a big believer in independence. I think you should help yourself. Because if I help you now, then you'll never learn how to get with
I'm quite right-wing, Josh. Yeah. I was raised to believe that you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and fight the witch yourself.
The Lord says... help those who help themselves.
And then, I trip over a rock. Josh, I've tripped.
Josh, where are you?
Josh, what was your favorite film again? That's what I would be doing. But again, it has this whole. I did love the desperation, because I always thought the thing that this film did well. I thought it then, and I thought it now, is that you don't jump to we now exist outside the laws of space and time, and that we're ultimately doomed and we're heading towards a cataclysmic event. That can't be. It can't.
Yeah.
You have to believe. It's a forest. It's scary. It's fucking terrifying. But I mean, again, not being a believer in the supernatural, I would never. It would take so much for me to be in a forest. I would have to walk forward for 6 hours and undeniably end up back where I started.
Yeah.
For me to start to believe in anything like that, I would.
Yeah,
I would. I wouldn't jump there. I just couldn't go there. What would you do with that?
Even at that, you'd be the same as what the three of them are like. They put it down to human error. You won't put it down to geographical oddities, spiritual oddities.
I remember a friend. Yeah, I remember a friend, Simon, saying that he didn't realize that Amsterdam is built in a very circular fashion.
Yeah,
it's like streets, but they ultimately go around the because he felt like he was going this way, and he just kind of followed. But because it's such a massive loop, we're talking, it took him 6 hours to do it, 5 hours to do it, something like that. But when he got back to his hostel, he believed it. He was like, "Fucking hell!" Because again, like it's like a 1 degree turn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so insanely small,
I've been down
and
to
over
that.
such an insanely long period of such an insanely long piece of road that you would be forgiven for. Always get the impression that you're walking the one way.
Yeah,
it can happen. So yeah, I would put it down to like here's the thing. I'm so steeped in horror movies, but I've never ever experienced anything that I believed that is completely outside of the experience.
And then the day you'd be like the same thing that Heather says. It's so hard to get lost in modern day America. She says,
she said that in 1999, and she's right. She said like my girlfriend's waiting.
Ireland's much
Josh
smaller.
was like, I have a girl. Like my girlfriend's going to, when I don't get on it, especially because he didn't have like. Now we have satellite phones. You could call somebody from the top of Mount Everest, literally. But she was like, when I don't show up, whatever about me not being where I said I'd meet her, if I don't show up at all or even call, because they're going to be looking for me.
No, Josh,
I don't think
Josh
they were in
that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. But I don't think they were. I don't even know if they were on Earth. I don't know if they were in. Like, I don't know if you would. I'll put it this way: I don't know if you would flown a helicopter over that exact region that you would have found them.
No, I think...
You know what I mean? I think they were outside...
No, I don't think it was like outside of like space and time. Or I think like the more I look at it, the more I think about it is, I think they were put under some sort of enchantment, or that area is under some sort of enchantment. But they just keep walking in circles. I don't think they exist outside of space time or whatever Sandy likes to say.
So they were all... Well, what... I would ask that. I said, like, why tie with them that much?
Because you're in my territory and you desecrated my sacred things. I hold these rocks to be sacred.
She got off on murder, so I don't think it was...
No, was it she? Was it him? Was it the witch through the guise of this man?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, I just think that you get to a certain stage that there's this area that might be under some sort of like black magic, occult enchantment.
I always thought, how would I do it if it was me? And I always thought, like, when she goes down into the basement and she sees Mike in the corner, I would have done... Have you seen the flash kick by Guile? in the Street Fighter series, I would have probably done the flash kick, because the witch is coming up behind you, so I would have done a flash kick. See, the flash kick is completely 360 assault. So I would have jumped up and I would have either perhaps on the first swing got it if it was coming at the front, and if not, kicked it. Even worse, in the back of the neck, killing the witch.
Oh, killing blow, of course.
I was furious with Heather for not having learned.
Yeah,
as I have the flash kick,
and the fact that she was in like the late 90s, that knowledge was readily available.
That knowledge was, man. Street Fighter 2 had been out for years.
It was clearly there.
It makes me angry.
Like, the problem is that continues on. Like, the youth of back then and the youth today, they just don't avail of the information that's already
I
there.
think she probably maybe had a dragon punch in her. Yeah, but like, does that cover all angles?
Not in a tight space. Not in a tight space.
The flash kick.
The flash kick, of course, because you got a tight area. You know your enemy's going to come around from behind you. You've seen that Mike is in the corner. You know it's MO. You know there's prediction for attacking people and putting other people in corners. Yeah. So immediately, I would have leaned on the flash kick.
And I don't know how to say Assassin's Fluken. So I don't know what the bicycle kick thing would have even been.
Yeah, but I just think a header goes Fluken, and then like a quick flash kick.
Better ending.
Yeah, better ending. It's just a stronger movie all around.
Stronger movie all around.
The Street Witch Project.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Blair Witch, round 1.
Yeah.
White. That should have been the tagline. No, but here,
the Witch Fighter Project.
But this is what we were talking. We were talking recently when we did Fear Street. Excuse me.
Should we do Street Fighter? I think we should do Street Fighter.
I think we should do Street Fighter.
Computer game.
I have a very interesting tidbit of Street Fighter that'll break your heart.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Raul Julia, who played Bison, was dying of stomach cancer at the time, and he knew it. So he let his kids pick his last role.
Yeah.
They picked Street Fighter, and then he went in and he got as much money. Like, instead of going like, usually you go in and kind of go like, I want $5 million. Well, you're kind of going, well, such an actor will do it for 4, and then you negotiate.
Yeah.
He went in, he let his kids pick the project, and then he bled them for every goddamn penny they're worth. And he left that money to his family. Raul Julia's M. Bison was an homage, a little honour to his family. He didn't give a fuck about the role. He didn't give a fuck about being shit.
So you're saying Wednesday and Pugsley Adams picked M. Bison as the role for Raul Julia.
I hate you for this.
Did.
How dare you invoke my probably all-time greatest grudge, Christina Ricci.
Yeah, I've never thought like that we'd end up here with an Addams Family joke, but here we are. But so no, like,
and it's not even Wednesday.
Yeah. Oh. It's Friday with the magic of cinema.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We record and release on Fridays.
Yeah,
that's what we do. It's live, man. It's all live. But
anyway, let's just jump. Josh, go. I'm going to jump to.
Yeah, I want to talk about. Sorry to cut question, but let's talk about the killings. Let's talk about the death of Josh that leads to them following and being berated by his fucking screams of torment, and in the abandoned house that nobody in their sane mind will go into, and then Mike and Heather's demise. So, Noel, what do you think of the deaths of the 3 main characters, and in that order, Josh, Mike, Heather? Or
right,
maybe Josh, Heather, Mike, because Mike is...
Yeah, right. Josh, Heather, Mike is correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought I was very... brave is always... Brave should be a word that's used for actual things.
Hashtag brave, hashtag stunning.
You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, I thought it was a fucking ballsy move that when Josh went missing, I was expecting Josh to show up originally. Back in the day, teenage me watching this, I was expecting Josh to be like, I don't know, hanging skinless from the trees, or you know what I mean, like something so. Maybe I thought he was going to be the
similar to the symbol or something.
Exactly. There was never.
Crucified or something.
There was never a monumental moment where they knew they were fucked. Don't get me wrong, they had plenty of fucking like, oh, we're fuckedness.
Yeah.
But not like a
unexplainable fuckness.
Yeah, not unexplainable, like as in again a body hanging. I don't know. I remember thinking this. I think I whispered.
It's not like that moment in Predator where they see
exactly
Tim
what
Hopper's
I thought.
Team. Yeah,
exactly what I thought. I was like, imagine if you come across Josh hanging, like, of course, with his famous, like, whatever chain he was wearing or whatever bracelet he was wearing.
The claw thing.
Yeah, something that really was like something universally him and buried him. And probably something they distinguished early in the film that was he had a penchant for.
Yeah.
But anyway,
the flannel shirt.
I was expecting that, but there never was that.
Use the flannel shirt.
Yeah.
It was wrapped. The bundle was wrapped in his
That's it,
shirt.
even that. But they never did that. In fact, everybody died not expecting to die, and the real mind fucky bit of it was what happened to Mike in the minute or so. No, sorry, not even the minute, in the 20 seconds, 10 seconds.
That he completely submitted.
Actually, you know what? This harkens back to the point you made that there was always an enchantment.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because
the more I think about it,
there was nothing, as in, I don't know, like if I ran down into that basement and was like literally met by an ungodly creature.
You're fighting till you die.
I mean, no, but or I'm shitting myself on the ground. It doesn't matter. All I know is I like, you know what, even if it made demands of me, I wouldn't end up going into the corner. As in, even just the fear. Yeah. Even just the fear.
It's just a submissive move, isn't it?
It would stick you to your spot. But I wouldn't go and wait in the corner
to be killed.
For somebody else to be murdered, for me to be murdered.
Yeah.
I know that wouldn't happen. It's not even like because I'm a badass. It's just like I could imagine shitting myself and freezing with fear before that would happen.
Yeah.
Or I could imagine myself at least trying to pick up something and freaking out and having to be murdered because of the lack of cooperation.
That's what I'm thinking. The more
it does not. Now that I'm thinking about it, it does actually speak to your.
I think they're just
enchanted the entire time.
They're just walking in circles. The witch is playing games with them. That's what I think.
The whole time.
The whole time, like.
That's the thing, and I always thought that. I think actually they really fucked this up. I think in years gone by because they made like the Book of Shadows.
Yeah.
That.
They made a sequel to it.
Yeah, because they had the guy who made Spawn,
Todd McFarlane
made, and they sold a Blair Witch kind of doll like a Blair Witch toy.
Yeah,
and it was like, no,
we should never know what it looks like.
We should never know what it's the entire point.
Yeah.
In fact, it's never even in that original film. It's alluded. Sorry, I was about to say not alluded to. Of course, it is indefinitely alluded to.
Yeah.
It's even described, but it's never touched upon. The camera literally falls like it was on a tripod.
Yeah,
like it falls very cleanly to the floor, and she's butchered from behind. You do not know what the witch looks like any more than anyone else in the world, and that was the power of the Blair Witch for so long. I thought it was such a fucking shit stain on its legacy. This is what you were talking to me about recently about doing franchises and stuff, and I was saying absolutely brilliant, and we're going to do them. They're definitely coming up, but I always thought that some franchises bled themselves so much that I almost don't want to.
Yeah.
And while this one didn't have like a fuck ton of films, but when they actually said, like, oh yeah, no, the Blair Witch just looks like this, it's a big scary monster. Like, fuck off, dude. The entire point
of the Blair Witch is that
you don't know.
It lives on through myth and lore.
Yeah, it lives on. You don't know what the Blair Witch looks like anymore, and you know what God looks like.
Yeah.
It's actually outside of your purview of understanding.
And anybody that ever seen it died, so they couldn't tell you what
and that's so fucking freaky.
Yeah.
That's so freaky.
Yeah, exactly.
What has that? Have you got anything that has that now? Because for years, until like 2016 or whenever the book.
It's like the whole like Bloody Mary or Candyman or whatever.
Yeah, but I know. Can you think of something in horror lore that we never saw? Like again, the Babadook was always a famous one because it exists in kind of these like almost sporadic chopped images. So that might just be how you perceive it. But like the Blair Witch, no, the camera was always facing the wrong way. It never caught, not even
because it came up behind
glimpse of it. Yeah, and the people who did see it, they were crazy old cool. And remember, they were in the car, and she was like, "Yeah, she also claims to be a I can't remember, like such a type of scientist and such a type."
Oh, yeah, she was like a nuclear physicist or something.
A nuclear physicist, yeah, that's right. But also, she was working on something. You know, it was a whole juxtaposition of crazy things. It was like she was a lunatic.
Yeah, exactly. It was like she told one true story. And even if the rest of them are true, because
it's lost in the madness.
Yeah,
it's lost in the madness.
Yeah. And that's kind of the best thing about Blair Witch, because your sources are so unreliable, seemingly, even though they could be reliable.
Yeah, here you are.
Yeah, here you are, exactly. And the thing is, though, like, because your sources seem so outlandish or unreliable that you believe everything to be fake and to be false, and you keep putting yourself deeper and deeper into this situation because you believe I'm lost because we lost them. First, they're like, I'm lost because I was misreading the landscape. I don't know this area. Second's like, oh, we're lost because Mikey lost the map. And then third, we're lost like because what the fuck? Like, where are we? Like, you know, that kind of way. And by the time they kind of get to the stage like, where are we? I think that's where they're in the house and they're dead. You know, that kind of way. I just think like for the first portions of the movie, they're trying to explain everything. And I just think like by the because they keep trying to explain everything, they keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into those. Because like, oh yeah, no, we're lost because it's human error. I just don't know the area. Oh no, we're lost. Mikey lost the map. We just don't have the map. That's how we're lost. And then the reason they're lost is because
you're always trying to put some logical spin on it.
Exactly, and I think the reason they're lost is because they're under some sort of spell from the minute they knock on those rocks or some shit.
But it's always like, again, it's one of these things that we're having this
maybe in the first night.
But imagine we're 22 years there, and I
still don't have all the answers.
No, but I have to say that I'm leaning into your explanation because of now like reviewing the film and having talked it out. Yeah. But at the same time, I love this thing where, do you remember the suitcase in Pulp Fiction?
Yeah, the soul.
People say it was a Marcellus Wallace's soul, especially because he had a plaster on the back of his neck.
Yeah.
Was it Marcellus Wallace's soul or something? And the fact is, I don't know if if it was like, again, I think there's some things in Harry Potter. I'm not a big Harry Potter guy, but people are like, was this or this?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, if I was the writer, I'm thinking, I don't fucking know either.
Yeah.
As in, that's the point. As in, it's whatever, if you can perceive it to be, and whatever the best argument is, you should go forward with. But at the same time, I'm not going to commit to any of it.
Yeah.
But I think you've met a good argument. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and this is something I've kind of come to while we're talking about.
Again, it makes more sense to me in the ultimate.
Yeah.
But again, like,
it just reminded me.
But the people who, when it was written, they kind of went, fuck, it's the Quentin Tarantino. Like, fuck you. I don't know. Like, what it is you open the suitcase and fucking somebody says,
it just reminded me
of beautiful.
Did you ever see the footage of back during Vietnam? I think it's the British soldiers off their face in acid.
Yeah.
And they're just stumbling through the jungle and shit. And it just reminded me they always kind of look like they're out of it or something. And to me, it feels like that. I think they're under the spell of something. And the reason they keep walking in circles, and it's probably the reason Mike kicked away the map, is because he was like told to do it or possessed to do it or whatever. Probably the reason why Josh walked away when he didn't even realize it, because he just probably, like, something came to the tent and just said to him, "Come with me," and he did. And I think that's the whole thing. Like, I think, like, the more I look at Blair Witch, it seems like they're completely under the influence of the Blair Witch. They're not just trapped in some sort of fairy ring. I think they're actually under the influence of the Blair Witch. The Blair Witch is just tying with them, walking them in circles. How come they find the house all of a sudden? Because the Blair Witch wanted them to find the house.
It was time.
It was luring them in with Josh.
It was time, yeah.
So the whole point of Josh was bait. Josh was the lure.
It makes me think of a cat or something. As in, like, it knows, like, let's just say when its prey is wounded enough that it doesn't have to worry. Yeah, it doesn't have to worry about it. Like a cat knows that a rat is quite fast.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. But now that it's lost A amount of blood or B broke a leg or something like that, it simply doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And then you get to just kind of like snap at it.
Look at the MO of the Blair Witch: kills children. So, like, weak victims, weak targets. So Josh,
it takes joy in that.
Yeah, it broke Josh mentally. As soon as Josh seen the slime and seen that he was targeted, whatever took a liking to Josh broke him mentally immediately. So Josh was the first one taken away. So he was the weakest of the three mentally because he was broken. So the second one was taken away was Mike, because Mike was broken. The third one was Heather, because she was the leader of the three of them.
She needs to be taken out first.
Yeah.
Although I assume Josh was dead at this point, to be fair.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just saying, like, I think the Blair Witch, if you look at the Blair Witch or the killer or whatever that they speak about in the interviews, the MO is he likes to kill children.
Yeah.
So that's, they call it...
puppy love.
No, but they call it a low risk kill.
Yeah.
It's like when a serial killer kills a prostitute, they call it low risk, because nobody might, like, there's a chance that prostitute has no extended family that's looking for
a prostitute versus a senator.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? If you want to run the gambit.
Yeah, so a lot of serial killers that kill children is because of low risk. They have a more high probability of overpowering the weaker target or whatever, the weaker victim or whatever. I think Josh was weakened mentally, so I think maybe with the enchantment idea or whatever, it was able to say to Josh, "Come with me," and Josh just followed it willingly. Like, you know what I mean, or not willingly, but you know what I mean, without struggle. And then because Mike and Heather were a bit stronger, broke them mentally by using Josh as a lure, using Josh as bait, by constantly, like, torturing Josh within earshot of them, break them down. Mike was slightly weaker.
I feel like Josh was probably an echo of himself. I always felt that.
Yeah.
Because then it wasn't the Blair Witch necessarily mimicking, it was the Blair Witch echoing somehow, you know, because I think
the Blair Witch was making those sounds, not Josh?
I think the Blair Witch, I think it was like inside of its power set. I think the Blair Witch, because it was stuff that I can imagine he would say, because he wasn't saying, like, he could have been more like decisive, like, Mike, I'm in a house close by. It was never tortured. It was stuff you could imagine him saying, and it was able to take it and either mimic it because that's the type of creature it is, or mimic it because that's the kind of power it has.
Yeah,
but effectively the same thing.
Yeah, no, I think it was like I think it was literally torturing Josh. I think that was Josh. And I just think that was using Josh as a lure, and I think slowly but surely it was whittling down to treat him and making him weaker and weaker. And I think that's why the whole enchantment thing was walking in circles till they ran out of food, they were exhausted, they broke him mentally, they broke him physically, and then all of a sudden, it's when you hear Josh, it's slowly luring him to the house. Because that's where it wants to kill them. You know what I mean?
I think now looking back on it, I think ultimately the bad guy was the Blair Witch.
No, I think it was Heather. Because, like, she didn't do the flash kick.
Yeah, she didn't do the flash kick, and it was right there.
It was right there. Like, it was right there. God, she could have done it off the stairs.
The hours I put into it. So I don't get Blair Witched. And my parents would be like, Noel, why are you doing backflips in the backyard? And they said, it's like you haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, it's like the reason I'm doing this is to save you, mother, save you, father. The fact that you're questioning me is kind of a little bit insulting.
What if she comes at you from the side? I feel like you just shit on everything I do.
Yeah, it's like you think I haven't seen Jurassic Park? You think I can't clever girl her? Yeah, you think I can't clever girl her?
Yeah, it's called inverted flash kick.
Inverted flash kick. Like, you know what I mean? And that also took 6 months of training. I can remember you and Pi May.
Yeah.
Right before Beatrix Kiddo came in, I think. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that's historically accurate.
That's what happened.
Wait there, I'm checking my notes. Historically accurate. It says, checking my notes.
The score is historically accurate on that thing you looked at.
Yeah. On my notes. I'm speaking, I got my producer in my ear and historically accurate. Historically accurate.
You think our very real producer would lie about that shit?
Carl, you're in my ear, right? I hear you everywhere I go.
The future.
We're never alone. But no, so like we talked about, like we ran through the 3 killings. We gave our different kind of hypothesis, for lack of a better term, about why they were lost in the woods of Burkittsville, how the witch was controlling them, or how they used them against each other, or whatever. We talked about the marketing campaign of the Blair Witch in part 1 of this episode. So no, like it's 22 years later. I know it's detractors, but it's undeniable that the Blair Witch is a landmark movie.
It's like not... Like, it's fair enough if you're not a huge Beatles fan, but you have to realise what spawned.
Yeah.
And, like, fair enough if Beatles was that stuff that was even before Blair Witch, but, like, whatever, like Zeppelin.
Like, anybody out there that says, I'm a Paranormal Activity fan and says, I don't like Blair Witch is a fucking idiot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As in, you know, and maybe if it wasn't the Blair Witch, maybe it would have been something else, but it was the Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Like, that's what happened. The Blair Witch in 1999 made it so that fucking people without a huge budget could make horror films, and that's it spawned franchises where guys there are some directors out now making bank because they were able to fucking launch their careers off the back of Blair Witch. We should be grateful for fucking
look at the genre of horror, right? And look at the subgenres. You got slasher, you got haunted film, found footage.
Yes,
it's right up there with any of the subgenres.
Absolutely,
demonic possession, whatever. Found footage is in your top 5. Yes. I don't care whatever way you order them. Found footage is such an important subgenre to horror nowadays, and as you said, it gives someone that has a small budget a chance to make a feature movie or whatever. And it gives the people like the guy that made Mika that made Paranormal Activity. If you don't have that found footage subgenre, and I know Blair Witch and the guys that make Blair Witch
proved that like somebody else might have tried it, but Blair Witch proved it could be done.
Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, right, the guys that wrote and directed Blair Witch, and like it just showed what you can do with very little. If you have a good imagination, if you're able to plot out a story in a sense that it doesn't need these grand scenes or grand moments to make it believable. Yeah. And I just think like they didn't spawn a subgenre, they definitely revitalized one.
Yes.
And I think that their mark on cinema and horror is undeniable. And I think that found footage is one of the mainstays of the horror genre. And I think it's going to keep going because it's so cheap to make and it's so accessible to filmmakers and debut filmmakers and stuff like that. And I just think that you can say what you want about Blair Witch. When you look back about it, the quality of the movie might not be what you thought it was when you were a child or a kid. When you seen it first, the impact it had on you then. But it's undeniable that the quality it had and the mark it made on horror, on cinema, and pretty much filmmaking for the past 22 years. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So, Noel, do you want to get the fuck out of here?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So, Noel, do you have anything else you want to say about the Blair Witch before we say goodbye to all these fine folks?
It birthed a lot, and I will never have it taken for it. I'll fight to the death for it. Even if a lot of it is aged and a lot of it's become tropey, a lot of it owns the tropes. It started the trope.
It invented
and
the tropes.
At that time, it was. You have to hold something to its own standard.
Yeah.
It'd be like going back to Jason and the Argonauts and shitting on the special effects. They were amazing.
Yeah, cutting edge for its time.
Cutting edge for its time.
And that's all you can ask
And
for
also was the surface that whatever came next was based on.
Yeah.
And this was a surface.
Yeah.
And you have to respect it for that.
Yeah.
If nothing else, you have to respect it for that.
Yeah, so like, will we get the fuck out of here? All right, Noel, and all right, folks, this is the Invasion of Potty Snatchers. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We went to Burkittsville, went to Fear Street not too long ago. We hope you enjoyed what we've been doing the last few weeks. And this is Invasion of Potty Snatchers. I haven't said this for a while, but your one-stop shop for everything that goes chop, chop, chop. I'm your host, Vincent Green. He's your host.
Peace out, motherfuckers. Noel John Tui in his ass. Cut that out. All of it.
All right, see you next time, folks. Goodbye, motherfuckers.